Today I'm going to teach you how to elevate your product and project photography using some simple steps and stuff you probably already have around the house. For quite a few years now, I've been making products featuring my artwork and selling them both online and at craft shows. I'm also a multi-hobbyist, and I've always got a new finished project that I want to show off to friends and family. For both of these reasons, it's important to me to have a decent setup at home to get good photos of my various products and projects that I have on the go. If you're creating products to sell, obviously you should be aiming to get great photos of your items. I feel like that goes without saying. But taking good photos of your hobby projects, in my opinion, is equally important. It ensures that you're really bringing out the best of this item that you've created, and especially in today's digital world, it's really important to have nice digital photos that you'll be proud to show others. It's also really helpful if you're in the midst of working on a project and want to share a work in progress for some constructive criticism. A nicely taken photo is going to show your work much better than a shoddy photo that's taken over a dimly lit table, for example. A few qualities of good item photography include good lighting that's diffused over the item without any hard light or shadow, a nice level of sharpness and detail that allows you to see the item clearly, and an appropriate background setting for your item. There's a lot of different ways to achieve these things and get really good photos, and in this video I'm going to go through some of them step by step based on my own research and experience. I'll be using gaming miniatures in a lot of these examples for comparative purposes since I find they work really well for this. They're small and also very well detailed, but the steps can be applied to just about any item you have on hand. So let's begin. I'm sure it goes without saying that you first need a camera to take photos of things. There's lots of options available. You can use a nice, simple, inexpensive point-and-shoot digital camera. You can use a high-end DSLR camera with interchangeable lenses, detailed settings, and that whole brouhaha. Or you can just use your smartphone. Many smartphones these days have amazing built-in cameras that are ready to go. Other than obviously requiring a camera to take photos, the type of camera you use may arguably be the least important step to getting a great photo. Of course, having a fancy DSLR or a really nice smartphone camera is going to help you to take really great photos right out of the gate, but if you're working with an old point-and-shoot camera or a less than stellar smartphone, you can still get pretty good photos if you pay attention to the other steps that I'll be talking about in this video. To show you what I mean, I'm going to show you a few photos of miniatures that I took with two different cameras in the exact same lighting and environment conditions. The photos on the left were all taken with my ancient Canon PowerShot point-and-shoot that you saw just a few minutes ago. It's traveled all over the place with me and has water damage in the lens. It's probably ready for retirement. The photos on the right were taken with my pretty new Google Pixel 3 smartphone, which has a very high-quality built-in camera. It's even better than my DSLR camera. There's obviously quality difference for sure. One would expect that with such a difference in the quality of camera that I'm using. But I'm sure you can also see that with a good setup in place and just a little bit of post-editing, which I'll talk about later, both cameras are able to produce a nice, crisp, clear photo. So don't worry too much if you're not working with an ideal camera. You can still get really good photos even with a really old or bad camera. So while in my opinion having a great camera is the least important thing, having good lighting is probably the most important thing. It's going to help you achieve great focus and great visibility for your item. The great thing about lighting though is that it's really versatile. There's a lot of ways to get nice lighting for your item photography. At the very basics, ensuring that you have light on your item and a simple uncluttered background is going to work well enough if you want a quick photo in a pinch. When you can, be sure to take advantage of natural light. Photos by a nice bright window can work really well, and if it's a nice day out with some shade or overcast skies, that's also a great opportunity to take some photos. Make sure to avoid direct sunlight though, or your photos will probably be a little too high contrast and difficult to see. For a simple, professional, and consistent indoor lighting setup, my recommendation is to get a cheap lightbox and lighting setup put together that you're able to pop up and take down as needed. You can buy small pop-up light boxes pretty inexpensively these days, or you can make one of your own at home. Here's my light box that I've been using for about 6 years. I made it myself out of Coroplast board from Home Depot and tulle fabric from the fabric store. I think it cost me about $10 to make. The 3 lamps I'm using are all existing lamps I had laying around the house. The light from all 3 lamps are being diffused through the sheer tulle fabric, which helps eliminate harsh light and shadow. The 3 directions of light also help eliminate any residual shadows and really highlight my item on all sides. I wrote a tutorial on making a light box like this back in 2016 for a blog post on my website. I'm not going to reinvent the wheel here, the tutorial still works great, so I will link it in the description below. I know that there's nicer versions of this on the market now for like $20, but honestly, this lightbox setup works great for me, and I've really felt no reason to upgrade. If you're able to afford a small investment in your lighting setup, I would suggest investing in 5000 Kelvin daylight bulbs for your desk lamps. I got a box of 4 bulbs for about $10 at Home Depot. Not only are they great for just working on my hobbies at my hobby table, but they provide a bright neutral white light for photography. Photographing under warmer or cooler light can throw off colors in your finished photos and might have you putting a little more work into your post-editing. So once you have your space set up to take photos in, it's a good idea to think a little bit about the background and environment that you want your items to be photographed in. If you want, for example, a smooth, clean, edgeless white background like you've seen a bit in this video already, just set up a piece of thick poster paper rested curved along the back corner of the box. I secure mine on the table with a single piece of Scotch tape so it's easy to remove afterwards. When specifically photographing gaming miniatures, I really enjoy using the game board to spruce up my background. Some of the detail gets a little lost in these photos due to having a detailed background, but it's a fun option to create scenarios with different characters and just really put the characters in the game. There's all sorts of different things you can try. Different colors of paper, you can try fabrics, you can try wood, all sorts of surfaces and backgrounds. Get creative with what you have around the house and find ways to have fun with staging your items in ways that look really good for the item you're photographing. Just place your items and start playing around after that. Just check your lighting, and if applicable, you can play around with the settings on your camera. The most important goals here are to do your best to get good lighting and nice crisp focus on your item. How you do that is going to depend on your setup and your camera. You also want to think about how the items themselves are posed in the photo. Sometimes the best pose is obvious, like this little amigurumi octopus I crocheted. I'm really just going to want to have it on a front view highlighting its little button. But when I'm taking photos of a gaming miniature I've painted, it can be a bit harder, and I really want to find what a lot of folks refer to as the golden angle, the angle that best portrays the miniature and all the great details that I've painted on it. Maybe I want to highlight some freehanding that I did, or maybe there's a specific pose for this model that really brings out all of the best details of the paint job. Between lighting, focus, and posing, this step usually involves experimentation, so just be patient with it and have fun with the process. Don't be afraid to take lots of photos. We live in the digital age, and bad photos can be deleted later. While experimenting, you might find it useful to take a few notes if you find some particular setup details or camera settings work well for you, so you can remember them later. So I've mentioned editing a few times now in this video, and by editing I mean editing your photo after you've taken it. When I talk about photo editing, sometimes I have people scoff at me as though it's something that you should avoid having to do. But I'm here to tell you that editing your photos after taking them is something that every professional photographer does, so even hobby photographers should be taking it into consideration. Having access to a photo editing program and knowing the very basics of how to use it can really help give your photos that little extra oomph. It's also useful to crop your photos sometimes so that the object you photographed fits really nicely in the frame and all of the detail is perfectly captured. And I'm not saying you need to go out and buy Adobe Photoshop. Hardly. As of this recording, I personally use a free app on my phone called Snapseed for the majority of my photo editing. And if I need to do some editing on the computer, I'll often just rely on the Windows 10 editor that's built into the Photos app. There's a lot of other free and cheap options as well that are worth looking into. Usually I just adjust the sharpness a little bit and then play with the brightness and saturation settings until the color looks really close to real life. And then I'll sometimes crop the image if needed to better fit within the frame. None of it is major, but as you can probably see, it makes a difference. Now that I have the hang of using the app, which didn't take long, it typically takes less than a minute to crop a photo and apply a couple of small tweaks to it. I should note that I'm not sponsored by Snapseed or anything like that. It's just a free app that I've really enjoyed using, and I feel like it's really easy to learn. There's a lot of other simple photo editing programs out there for smartphones and for your computer, so play around and find something that works for you to just give the photos a little bit of editing and bring them to the next level. And that's all there is to it. That's my 4 basic steps to improving your item photography. Obviously, photography is a huge subject. I've only covered some absolute basics here, and there's a lot of deep diving to be had. But hopefully these 4 simple guidelines will get you on the way to taking better photos of your stuff. Let me know in the comments if this video helped you. I had quite a few requests for this one, so I was really excited to get it done, and I'd love to know what you think. It's also my first time doing some live footage for YouTube, so I apologize if some of it was wonky. I'm still learning a bit, so bear with me. As always, I welcome suggestions for future videos, and I invite you to like and subscribe so you can see my future content. Oh, and before I go, I wanted to mention that I will be linking to the products and craft kits that are featured in this video in the description below. Some of them are local makers and friends of mine, so definitely give them a click if any of them interest you. Thanks so much for watching today, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye!